Mark 5, you'll look at verse 22, you'll see a situation in a story about a woman, about a man and his daughter. All of these people had reasons to complain. We would stand for the reading of God's word. Mark 5, right at verse 22. I'm reading from NIV. Mark 5, right at verse 22. You'll find these words. Then one of the synagogue leaders, named Jairus, came, and when he saw Jesus, he fell at his feet. He pleaded earnestly with him. My little daughter is dying. Please come and put your hands on her. He asked for him to touch her, so that she will be healed and live. So Jesus went with him. A large crowd followed and pressed around him. And a woman was there who had been subjected to bleeding for 12 years. She had suffered a great deal under the care of many doctors. That's bad. And had spent all she had trying to get better. Yet instead of getting better, she grew worse. And when she heard about Jesus, my God, something about the name Jesus. When she heard about Jesus, she came up behind him in the crowd and touched his cloak, his garment, his robe. And this is why she did it. She said because she thought, if I just touch his clothes, I don't have to hold his hand, I just got to touch his clothes, I will be healed. And watch what happens. Immediately her bleeding stopped. And she felt in her body that she was free from her suffering. And watch this. And once Jesus realized that power, virtue, had gone out from him, he turned around in the crowd and asked, who touched my clothes? You see the people crowding against you, his disciples answered, and yet you can ask, who touched me? But Jesus kept looking around to see who had done this very thing. Then the woman, knowing what had happened to her, came and fell at his feet. And trembling with fear, she scared to death, got to know the times here, told him the whole truth. And he said to her, daughter, my God, your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be freed from your suffering. People of God, let us pray. Father God, this is your house. Have your way, oh God. Let your word today, Father, go forth today and change somebody's life. Use me, oh God, till you get tired. Pour out through me into your people, Father. And they will hear from you. They will see you. They'll fall in love with you. They'll be encouraged and empowered, oh God, to be better, to be brighter, to be stronger, and to be more confident because of who lives in them. As they go out of this place, let them be better than they were when they entered in, more confident than they were when they entered in. Encourage them, God, to stay faithful on this journey. This is your house. Have your way, God. Loose your spirit in this place. Change somebody's life. This is my prayer. In Jesus' name. Amen. You may be seated in the presence of God. Just for a moment, I want to talk with you as we continue our series of moments with the Master, Jesus. Jesus, the Master. I want to start with looking at the text for a moment and understand that this is a touching moment. A touching moment, but not just a touching moment. It is a touching moment with Jesus. Because there's some touching going on in prayer time. All of us, we know when it says that two or more are gathered together. But it says, in my name, then I'll be in the midst. And so when you're gathered together and you're touching and agreeing, and his spirit is available in the midst, then things can happen. A touching moment with Jesus. Today I want to consider the account of the healing of a diseased woman. As the text tells us, Jesus is on his way to heal the daughter of Jairus. And he is interrupted as he goes on his way. He is interrupted as he's dealing with trying to be a blessing to a man who was all about religious practice. He was trying to go be a blessing to a man who was crying out to him about his daughter who was just dying. But in the midst of his travels, on his way to do what he was called to do, his ministry, if you notice in all of these moments with the Master of Jesus, if you notice, he's always moving in ministry. If you notice, he's not stagnant. He's always on his way someplace to serve, to help, to be a blessing. And even in this text, Jesus is on his way to be a blessing to somebody else. He's on his way to serve, to verify, to validate the purpose of ministry, the reason he came. And in the midst of him traveling on his mission, on his journey, he's surrounded by folk who have been wrestling back and forth trying to get at Jesus. And they're trying to get at him, people, for who knows what reason. Maybe they heard that if they get close enough that he can help them win the lottery. I don't know. Maybe they heard that if they could just touch him close enough that he may be able to help them find a job. I don't know. But they all came crowding around him with all kind of issues they were dealing with in their life. And he's on his way to a specific place to address a specific issue for a specific reason. And this crowd is pressing around him. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, Jesus is being now feeling a press or a empty or a taking away of power from his body. And he stops and asks the question. Can you imagine a crowd of people around you and you're asking someone who touched you? The mere fact that he even recognized that this woman or this person touched him is evidence that he already knew the answer to the question he was posing, but he just wanted to verify and validate that if is it what I think's happening? And listen, this is what I love about him. He's on his way to address another issue, but in the midst of his moving in ministry to fulfill his purpose in ministry, he doesn't stop. He doesn't get too busy. He doesn't say, I ain't got time. He says, I'm being beckoning by just the mere presence of touching that I got another issue that's calling my name. And that ought to be encouraging to you today, because I'm going to be honest with you that you need to recognize that no matter what you think, no matter how busy you think God is, he's never too busy to see about his people. Yes. And I want to help you this morning understand that what I love about him is that here he is on his way. He's on his way to help Jairus and his daughter. And And he stops because of the confidence and the faith of a broken sister who had enough courage to face her crowd. Here it is today. I believe, I'm just convinced that no matter how broken this woman was, she was a weak woman. They said she had been bleeding for so long that she had no longer had the strength. She was a timid woman. She was a dying woman. She had gotten to the place. Can you imagine that when your issue that you're wrestling with has taken you to a place of deprivation where you don't have anything left to give? There's no energy. There's nothing left in you to give. And you're at a place in your life, somebody here might know what I'm talking about, where you just get to a place of desperation where you just feel like giving up and throwing in the towel. You said, I just can't go any further. I can't take it anymore. And you just get to a place where you just want to quit. I don't know who I'm talking to, but there are those right now sitting in this church today that I'm convinced they need to get to the place that this woman got to, where they're not afraid to reach out and touch Jesus. It is in the touching of him that your transformation starts. You've been sitting for so long. You've been dealing with it for so long. Isn't it time for you to turn it over to someone who can fix your problem, who can address your issue? Isn't it time for you to get to the place where your faith now has gotten to be at a level of desperation where you're not afraid or worried about what other folks are going to think anymore? This is what she got to in her walk. She was dealing with the horror of her situation. And she had dealt with it for a long time. He said, well, how horrific could it have been? The symptoms. They say she dealt with bleeding for 12 long years. Can you imagine losing all of the nutrient? They said the blood is the lifeline of life. It is everything that keeps you living. And yet here it is for 12 long years. It's flowing out of her freely. That's an issue. And not only did she have to deal with the symptoms of her bleeding, her hemorrhaging. Listen, hold up. The symptoms leads to her suffering. You said, well, how could she have been suffering? You got to understand the text. If you look at it, read it for yourself when you get some private time. I want to help you real quick. She had to deal with it not just physically, because see, she couldn't touch nobody. Come on, be honest. Come on, some of us will lose our mind if we can't touch somebody. I'm just going to leave that alone. I'm not going to even go any deeper than that. You know what I'm saying. If you couldn't touch somebody, or however you choose to touch them, if you couldn't touch somebody, you would lose your mind. Imagine that this young woman, for all of this time, because of the issue that she's dealing with, she can't touch. Physically, she's prohibited from having any interaction with any other person. She's dealing with it from a physical standpoint. Can you imagine when you can't touch somebody? If she had been married, she couldn't have. She would have had to. Her husband would have had to divorce her because she was defiled because of her condition, because of her issue. She couldn't be with him anymore. He would have had to leave her because because of her issue, because of her condition. And not only did it deal with her physically, but can you imagine the social issues that she had to deal with? Come on, be honest. You know how y'all operate. You wouldn't be able to exist, to function, if you couldn't get on Facebook. If you couldn't hang with your boys or your girls or your cliques or your friends or whoever. Because in this time with her issue that she was dealing with, she couldn't spend any time. She couldn't go to the social clubs. She couldn't go to the place where the women would hang out and talk and socialize. She couldn't be around other folk. And so she had to sit on the outskirts of the city. She was isolated, and she had to deal with the persecution of being looked upon and looked down upon because of her issue, because of the condition she was wrestling with. She was not allowed to be a part of what was going on in the community. She was looked upon negatively because of her issue, what was inside of her that was coming out. People knew about her situation, and it caused them to be distant from her. I know I'm talking to. Not only did she deal with the social list, can you imagine the emotional roller coaster that she's been on all this time? Dealing with the ups and downs, the depression, the anxiety. Can you imagine the pills that she was being taken, the prescriptions that the doctor had assigned, all of the remedies that they were giving her because of the crazy stuff she was dealing with in her mind? Can you imagine how many times she had contemplated jumping off the nearest mountain or throwing herself off the nearest cliff because of the issues in her life that she was wrestling with? Somebody here know what I'm talking about right now, because guess what? You've been wrestling with some issue for a long time, and it's just like this woman. You've gotten to a place where you feel like giving up. The devil has convinced you that you can't win this, that there's no hope for you, that you might as well quit while you're ahead. You live your best days. Why don't you throw yourself off the nearest cliff that you have, and you're close to driving off the cliff, jumping off the building, throwing in the towels, taking some pills, whatever. The enemy is trying to trick you into giving up too soon, but Jesus is on his way. Hold on a little while longer. There's hope and there's help on the way. And not only does she deal with the social, emotional issues, but she has some religious struggles. Because if you look at Leviticus, it talks about what she couldn't do by law. She was defiled. And because of her defilement, she couldn't be in close proximity. That meant she couldn't come to worship. There's somebody here right now, you're struggling. Your issue is keeping you from worship. And all of that leads her to a place of sorrow. Because she had invested everything she had, not only dealing with the emotional, the social, and all of the physical, but then she had to deal with the financial aspect of her issue. You know what I'm talking about. When your issue, when your condition is taking you to the bankrupt category, when you've poured out everything you have financially, trying to get better, trying to find a solution. You know, you've tried all of the television ministries. You sent in for all the towels and the rags and the rocks that they offer to try to get your healing, your blessing. You've done everything you can think of, and you've spent all of your money on everything you can think of trying to get help with your issue. And I'm trying to help you right now to the place where the people that you were pouring into and trusting have now defeated you. They lied to you, and then they placed you at a place of sorrow. And all of the tricks and the remedies, none of it's worked for you, because your situation is no better than it was before. As a matter of fact, they said the doctors that she trusted, that she poured out to, that they convinced her they had the answer to her issue, only to find that they was crazy. They had her doing some crazy stuff. Stand with one foot and turn around in 5 circles and do a little dance and burn this rag and you'll feel better. That's 500, please. And they've spent all that they have trying to get better. But in the process, listen, watch this. While you're playing around with temporary solutions, your condition is getting worse. It's getting progressively worse than it was, because you're trying to get healed by something that doesn't have the power to heal you. You got to make sure you understand where you need to sow your seeds. We keep putting stuff in the wrong place and getting fruit from it that we really don't desire. I keep telling you, change the soil, change the seed. If you don't like what you're getting, you want a different kind of fruit, you got to sow a different kind of seed. I'm going to leave that alone because I can spend all day. I love talking about the soil. I love talking about the seeds because it's out of that you get the produce that you're striving for. And I'm telling you right now, people of God, listen. He's coming looking for the harvest. He wants productive, promising fruit, productive, progressing fruit. And if you're sowing the wrong seed in the wrong soil, there's no way what you're producing is going to please God. And be careful. I talked about the wheat and the tare. You got to be careful when he comes to do the separating. All right. I'll leave that alone. Listen, not only this, we have to deal with the issues of her life. The financial part, the sorrow that she had to face, the reality that none of it's going to work for her. Look at how it leaves her, feeling desperate. And it's one thing to be desperate, and you know there's a possible solution. But when you get to a place of desperation, honestly, where you've poured out everything, and you realize, you start to feel like there's no place else to go. And this is where she was. All she had tried had failed. All she had trusted had failed. And now her mindset is, this is just going to be my permanent condition. There's some people you know right now that's where they are in their life. That's why they're living that way, because in their mind they've been convinced that they can't be fixed, they can't be healed, they can't be changed, and so they've accepted it. And they said, this is just the way I'm going to be. I know this is my demise. I know I'm going to burn in hell. I know I'm going to die this way. This is who I am. And I want to encourage them today that if they just try Jesus, there's a different outcome waiting for them if they just give Jesus a try. And listen, and what I love about him, she didn't wait for Jesus to come to her. My God. See, some of us are sitting around with our issues, and we're waiting for Jesus to show up at our front door. And Jesus, listen, he's in your vicinity, and you got to get to a place where you're not afraid to press your way close to him. She said, I've got enough of this. I've had enough of this. I've tried everything else. And she got to a place, listen, she said, I'm embracing the hope that's coming down my street. Jesus. I don't know who I'm talking to. Declare right now. As they said, the word says she heard about Jesus. And listen, I don't know who I'm talking to. I know you heard about him. I ain't going to insult you by trying to repeat everything that's in the word of God. But they said he's the lily of the valley. That's what they told me. I heard that he has the power to raise the dead. I don't know who I'm talking to. I don't know if you've heard about this. They said he was nailed on a cross. And they said he thought he was going to die. They put him in a borrowed tomb. And somebody told me in the word it says he got up with all power in his hand. I don't know who I'm talking to. Just in case you hadn't heard about Jesus. I'm talking about Jesus, the Son of the living God. I'm talking about Jesus, you know, the one Mary's baby, you know, the one who was born. I don't know, maybe you haven't heard about him. Let me help you just a little bit. They said he's the rock in a weary land. Somebody in here had to, you ain't ever heard about him? Jesus. So I'm talking about Jesus. And they said she heard about Jesus. And she declared that if I can just get close enough. She said, I don't need to get close enough to hold his hand. Right. Listen, I don't have to hug him. I don't have to touch his body. If I can just touch his clothes, I'm convinced I'm just close enough and crazy enough in my dog double D mind to believe that if I can touch his garment, I can be healed. Do you believe enough in your walk? Have you gotten to a place where you've tried everything else that you're desperate enough that ain't nothing left to try? Go ahead and throw yourself out there. Give him everything you got. Press your way through. You know why it was important? Let me help you. See, the crowd you're dealing with will always try to get between you and Jesus.
That's right.
Come on, be honest.
That's right.
You know some folk right now. They talking crazy because you hear it right now. She trying to be all holy now. He done got himself saved. knowing her situation, knowing her condition. And this is what you need to be to say. Listen, I know my situation. That's why I'm here. I'm crazy enough to understand that I can't fix me. I can't clean me up. I can't deal with me. But I know somebody who's coming down the path. If I can just get close to him, I just can touch his clothes. I'm convinced that I can be healed. And listen, she had to deal with the crowd. And look at the crowd. Look at the crowd. They're looking at her crazy as she coming through. Can you imagine? They know your stuff. And how they're looking at you as you're coming, pushing your way through to the front. And can you see people moving over? Can't touch me. You know she got that issue. You know she got that condition. You know she's dealing with that crazy stuff. You know she's smoking that, you know. But all of a sudden, listen, the very folk who are judging you, they're surrounding Jesus. Look at how they're surrounding him. But they're surrounding him. He ain't asking them who touching him. He ain't crying out who touching him. But when she gets close enough to touch his garment, my God, the word says she immediately, my God, somebody right now, that ought to be a reason for you to shout, because you've been waiting for your fix. You've been waiting for your solution. And it's in him. And listen, it ain't in him coming to you. It's in you coming to him. You got to get to the place where you don't care who's looking at you, who's talking about you. You don't care how they look at you when you come. You got to get to the place where, you know what, I don't care. Move on over. Turn to your neighbor and say, I know my stuff is messed up, but slide over. Can you move over just a little bit? I got to get through. And when you get through, you ought to come close enough to him. Listen, the word says, she said, if he just gets close enough, he ain't got to come all the way. Listen, I was so messed up, people, I'm being honest with you, that I got to the place where I just said, God, if you just get close enough, I'm going to meet you the rest of the way. He said, I'm already on your street. He said, and I'm coming around the corner. And I'm going to meet you right where you're, listen, you need to get to the place where you don't care what your best friends say. You don't care what your family say. You need to press your way straight on and get close to him. She declared it, and she was determined to fight her way through. No matter what other people saying about her. And she knew she was messed up. She knew what she had been dealing with her whole life. But it was time for a change. It was time for something different. Isn't it time? Yeah. Haven't you wrestled with this long enough? Yeah. Come on, be honest. It's time for something different. And it requires you to press your way. Why don't you reach out and touch him? Why don't you reach out and touch him? He says, if you reach out and touch me, I'm going to transform your whole life. He said, oh, come on, be honest. Do you believe enough to try me at my word, to take me at my word? Listen, you can't come halfway now. You got to come with it all. Because the folks going to judge you either way. But the blessing is they don't have a heaven to put you in. Right. Nor do they have a hell to put you in. That's right. And so what they got to say about me, they can say and kick rocks. I'm going to press my way on through. And so when you get to the place, listen, not only did she deal with the horror of her condition, but she embraced the hope in Christ. She declared it and was determined to get to him. And because of that, she was able to experience healing. I don't know who I'm talking to, but you've been waiting for the healing power. He's coming right now. Why don't you get up and press your way close to him? You ought to turn to your neighbor and say, I don't know about you, but I'm going my way. I'm pressing my way. I'm going to press my way. I got to get close to him. Listen, be honest. Turn to a neighbor and say, I got to get at him. Turn to him, I got to get at him. Because if I get at him, he'll fix my situation. But it's only in him that I can be healed. And that's where her faith lies. Listen, because she had the faith. I don't want to get it twisted. All of the things that we experience, the enemy will always make us think that we can't survive it. Yeah. This woman was at that place. And all that you're going through in this life that looks like it's going to kill you, that feels like it's going to kill you, that's because if you're handling it without Jesus, it will. But when you get out and you're walking with him and the Spirit of God is living in you And I'm trying to help you right now. Listen, you're still going to face the same issues, but you're not by yourself. And when the struggle comes, you can cry out, Lord, help me. Just like Peter did when he thought he was going to die. He said, Lord, save me. And Peter was able to be all rescued right by reaching down and snatched him right up out of the water. Somebody here right now, you're drowning. You're drowning because you've been trying to do it all on your own. But why don't you touch Jesus? Why don't you press your way close to him right now? Listen, if you get close to him in your prayer life, if you get close to him in your study, listen, you can't, it ain't gonna happen by accident. You gotta make an intentional effort. You gotta start to press your way close to him. You gotta touch him. You gotta reach out toward him on a consistent basis. Listen, and when you do that, my God, watch your life change. See, you're looking at me, me and my wife, we've been through storms after storm after storm. The only difference is the boat I'm in now. When the storm comes, it's still the same storm as before. But who I'm resting with now, before I was resting with Kevin. With Kevin, it ain't no security. With Kevin, it ain't no hope. With Kevin, there ain't no power. And with Kevin, there is restless. But with Jesus, no matter how storms come, the winds in your life gonna get rough. And then no matter how the waves look in your life, because with Jesus, well, no matter how bad it gets, you can lay back and rest assured that all I got to do is call on him when I get nervous. At some point in your life, you got to have a relationship with him that you built up over time, that no matter how bad it gets, all you got to do is call on him. You say, Daddy, I need you right now. And he'll call out to you. He'll say, daughter, I got this. Winds, leave my baby alone. He'll say, winds, leave my son alone. I'm trying to help you right now. You need to understand the only way you can make it through is by touching him. It was in the touching moment that she was healed. Listen, and her faith, her confidence in him, no matter what her condition was, is what got her in the proximity of her breakthrough. Somebody here, you've been waiting for it, but you got to get closer. And then you got to believe. You hear me say all the time, if you say you believe, you need to act like you believe. That's faith in action. That means when the winds blow, you don't lose your mind. When the storms come, you don't lose your mind. Okay, let me help you. When the rents due and you're a little short on your check, you don't go out and try to make a few ends on the side. You don't carry some stuff you shouldn't be carrying. You shouldn't be. Okay, so y'all don't do that stuff. Okay, that's great. I'm glad to hear that. Glad to hear that. Because you trust him so much. He said, I would never give you something you can't handle. If you trust me, no matter how bad it looks, I got you. And sometimes, people, be honest, it's so hard for us to believe that. Because we're looking at all of the devastation that goes on around us. We're looking at all of the struggles that we've had and the issues of our life. And it's hard to believe that I can be somebody better than what I am now. And Jesus said, yeah, you can. You know how I know? He said, because I was there at the beginning of when we first laid you. And when we first made you, we listened. We knew all about you when they was conforming the hair on your very head. He said, yeah, I remember when Mama and Daddy was just getting to know each other, and we had you in mind. You see, you don't understand that I knew you before you knew you, before Mama knew you, before Daddy knew. I knew you. You heard in Jeremiah, he said, I knew the plans that I had for you. He said, to prosper you, nothing but good stuff. And we are convinced that that doesn't apply to us because our issues in life have gotten us so devastated that it can't be me, I'm too messed up. And God said, no, baby, I specialize in messed up. He said, yeah, I sent my son Jesus for messed up people. He said, remember, he said, I didn't come. He said, I didn't come for the well. He said, I came for the sick folk. And they said, why are you hanging around all these sinful people? Why are you hanging around all these broken souls? Why are you dealing with all these sinful people? He said, that's who I came for. I came for them. And And so when you're tripping on your situation because your friends are talking noise in your ear, you ought to say, yeah, he showed up for me because I was messed up. Thank God for messed up folks. Because if it hadn't been for messed up folk, God may not have sent his only begotten son. He may not have sacrificed his only love. I want to help you today. Listen, not only was she dealing with the struggle of her life, she got to the place where she embraced hope in Jesus. And because of her hope in him, her faith in him, she experienced healing in her life. Somebody here right now, you're looking. Yeah. You're looking for healing. Yeah. You're looking for a change in your life. Be honest. You're looking. You've been waiting. And you've tried everything. Till your bank account's funny. Your friends have left you. The community, your social life is all messed up. And now you're at a place where you feel like giving up. And Jesus said, I know it looks like I'm busy right now, but I'm not too busy to stop by to see you if you call me. Somebody here right now, you've tried everything in your life. Why don't you reach out today? And why don't you try him? You've tried drugs, and you've tried alcohol, and you've tried group orgies, you've tried all kinds of other things to fill that space, to deal with that issue, that pain, that suffering. You've tried it all. And your situation is no better today than it was before. Why don't you turn it over? Why don't you truly give it away and then turn it over to Jesus and then walk away from it? See, that's when you have true faith. The last part, and I'm done. Her faith puts her in proximity for her breakthrough. No matter what the people were saying. Jesus didn't judge her. He didn't call out her discipline or her sin. He asked one question, who touched me? Yes. Because all the people around him, he only noticed the one who had the greatest faith. See, I'm trying to help you understand that in all of her struggle, you don't think those other people were dealing with stuff? But did they really have the faith that Jesus could change their situation? It was her faith and the proximity of her pressing through that gets her to her breakthrough. And she has enough sense that at the end of all of her breakthrough, to not take credit, but to come and bow at his feet, to honor the one who has the power to change your life. Why don't you, right now, why don't you stand with me? Listen, be honest. Every one of us have found ourselves dealing with our issues. You know what? Maybe yours wasn't an issue of blood. Maybe yours was alcohol. I don't know. Maybe yours was drugs. Maybe it was relationship issues. Some people was dealing with spousal issues. Maybe it's some other addiction that you're wrestling with. But at the end of the day, the question is, are you willing to trust Jesus? Do you believe that he can change your life? That he can fix your issue? If that's you, be honest, if that's you, and you're at a place right now where you say, you know, God, I've tried everything else. I can't do it no more. I can't do this by myself. I need you. And I'm willing right now to step out on faith and just trust you. And I want to give my life to you. Why don't you come right now? Why don't you come right now? While everybody else is praying. For those who are here right now that may not have a relationship with him. That may not have a home, a church home, a pastor. Why don't you right now be praying over them right now? Because the devil will try to make them think that they got next week. Yes. But God said, no, you don't know the day or know the hour that I'm coming back. And so don't let the enemy talk you out of right now. Be like that woman and step out here and accept him today.